there is a powerful truth that Dr. Ramani often emphasizes when discussing narcissistic relationships. Freedom does not begin the day you leave. It begins the day you finally see clearly. Before the universe removes a narcissist from your life, it almost always removes the illusion that kept you emotionally attached. This is the first sign. It is subtle, deeply personal, and often uncomfortable because it forces you to question everything you once believed. At the beginning of the relationship, everything may have seemed magical. The narcissist knew exactly what to say. They made you feel seen, special, and deeply valued. They mirrored your dreams, your values, and even your insecurities. You believed you had finally met someone who understood you in a way no one else ever had. That intense connection felt like destiny. It felt as though the universe had answered your prayers. But over time, something began to change. The compliments became criticism. The affection became distance. The understanding became judgment. You found yourself apologizing for things you never intended to do. Every disagreement somehow became your fault. Every conversation left you questioning your own memory, your own intentions, and even your own sanity. Still, you stayed. Not because you were weak, but because hope is incredibly powerful. You held on to the version of them you met in the beginning. You convinced yourself that if you loved them more, became more patient, or sacrificed just a little more, that wonderful person would return. This is exactly where narcissistic manipulation becomes so effective. Dr. Ramani explains that narcissists often create what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, alternating moments of affection with periods of rejection or emotional cruelty. Those brief moments of kindness keep you emotionally invested, convincing you that the loving version of them is still there. You begin chasing those moments, like someone searching for sunlight during a storm. But the universe has a way of interrupting that cycle. One day, the excuses stop making sense. You notice that every apology sounds identical. Every promise to change leads back to the same behavior. Every argument follows the same script. Every period of silence is followed by love bombing. Every act of kindness has hidden conditions attached to it. Suddenly, patterns become impossible to ignore. This awakening rarely happens all at once. Instead, it happens through hundreds of tiny moments. You notice that your stomach tightens every time your phone rings because you fear another criticism. You realize you've stopped sharing your achievements because somehow they always make the narcissist upset. You recognize that you're constantly monitoring their mood before deciding whether it's safe to speak. You begin censoring your own personality just to avoid conflict. Without realizing it, you've been shrinking yourself to fit inside someone else's emotional prison. And then something extraordinary happens. Your intuition, which has been whispering for months or perhaps years, finally becomes louder than your fear. You begin asking questions you never dared to ask before. Why am I always the one apologizing? Why do I feel exhausted after every conversation? Why do I feel lonely even when I'm with them? Why am I working so hard for love that should never have to be earned? Those questions are not signs of weakness. They are signs that your awareness is waking up. The universe often speaks through your inner discomfort long before it changes your external circumstances. Many people expect the universe to send dramatic signs, a miraculous event, a shocking revelation, or a life-changing coincidence. Sometimes that happens, but more often, the universe works quietly. It removes the emotional fog. It sharpens your perception. It strengthens your intuition. It allows you to notice what you've been ignoring. You begin remembering conversations differently. You realize they rewrote history to make themselves look innocent. You remember promises they never kept. You see how they isolated you from supportive people. You notice how every act of generosity eventually became a tool for control. What once looked like love now begins to resemble manipulation. This realization can be heartbreaking because you're not just losing a relationship. You're grieving the future you imagined. You're grieving the person you hoped they would become. You're grieving the dreams you built around someone who was never capable of giving you the healthy love you deserved. That grief is real. But so is the freedom waiting on the other side. Dr. Ramani often reminds people that narcissistic abuse survives in confusion. Confused people stay. Confused people keep explaining away harmful behavior. Confused people continue giving endless second chances. But clarity changes everything. The moment you clearly recognize manipulation, it begins losing its power. You stop defending behavior that hurts you. You stop accepting blame for problems you didn't create. You stop believing that someone else's inability to love is proof that you're unworthy. Instead, you begin trusting yourself again. You begin rebuilding the relationship you lost long before you met the narcissist, the relationship with your own intuition. You realize that your feelings were never the problem. Your kindness was never the problem. Your empathy was never the problem. The problem was giving those beautiful qualities to someone who consistently used them against you. This first sign from the universe isn't about exposing the narcissist to the world. It's about revealing the truth to you, because once your eyes are opened, they can never fully close again. You start valuing peace over approval. You start choosing honesty over comforting lies. You begin recognizing that real love doesn't require you to abandon yourself. Real love doesn't make you question your worth every day. Real love doesn't punish you for having boundaries. As your awareness grows, your dependence on the narcissist begins to fade. Their words lose their authority. Their insults lose their power. Their approval becomes less important, and your own voice becomes stronger than it has been in years. That is the universe's first sign, not thunder, not lightning, not a dramatic miracle, but something far more powerful, the quiet awakening of your soul. Because before the universe removes a narcissist from your life, it first gives you the greatest gift of all, the ability to finally see the truth. And once you truly see the truth, healing is no longer a distant possibility. It becomes an unstoppable journey toward the life, peace, and freedom you were always meant to have. After the universe opens your eyes to the truth, something else begins to happen. The relationship that you once fought so hard to protect starts feeling heavier than ever before. The emotional weight becomes impossible to carry. According to Dr. Ramani, this is not simply bad luck or a difficult season in the relationship. It is often the moment when your mind, body, and spirit stop cooperating with the illusion. The universe begins using discomfort as a messenger, because comfort inside a toxic relationship can keep you trapped for years. Most people don't leave narcissistic relationships because of one terrible argument. They leave because of 1,000 painful moments that slowly drain their hope. Each criticism chips away at their confidence. Each broken promise weakens their trust. Each manipulation steals a little more of their peace. What once seemed manageable gradually becomes unbearable. At first, you try harder. You become more patient. You become more forgiving. You think that if you choose the right words, avoid certain topics, or make fewer mistakes, everything will finally improve. You begin studying the narcissist's moods as though your emotional survival depends on predicting them. If they wake up irritated, you stay quiet. If they seem happy, you breathe easier. If they become angry, you immediately wonder what you did wrong. Without realizing it, you've stopped living your own life and started managing theirs. This constant state of emotional alertness has a name. Psychologists often describe it as walking on eggshells. Dr. Ramani frequently explains that people involved with narcissists become hypervigilant. Your nervous system is constantly preparing for the next criticism, the next silent treatment, the next emotional explosion. Even during peaceful moments, your body never fully relaxes because you're waiting for the atmosphere to change. Eventually, your body begins speaking the truth your heart has been trying to ignore. You feel exhausted even after sleeping. You struggle to concentrate. You lose interest in hobbies that once brought you joy. You feel anxious every time your phone vibrates. Your stomach tightens before seeing their name appear on the screen. You begin questioning why someone who claims to love you makes you feel so unsafe. The universe often communicates through these internal signals long before external circumstances change. Your body notices danger before your mind fully accepts it. Your intuition whispers before your logic catches up. That persistent discomfort isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's your inner self refusing to normalize emotional harm any longer. One of the most heartbreaking effects of narcissistic abuse is how slowly it changes your identity. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens one compromise at a time. You stop expressing your opinions because they always become arguments. You stop celebrating your accomplishments because they make the narcissist jealous. You stop spending time with supportive friends because the narcissist complains about them. You stop chasing your dreams because keeping the peace consumes all your energy. Little by little, your world becomes smaller. Not because life demanded it, because manipulation quietly convinced you that shrinking yourself was the price of love. The universe refuses to let your authentic self disappear forever. That is why the discomfort keeps increasing. The same insults begin hurting more deeply. The same disrespect becomes harder to excuse. The same emotional games stop feeling normal. What once seemed acceptable now feels completely unbearable. This is not because you are becoming more sensitive. It is because you are becoming healthier. Healing changes your tolerance. When your self-worth begins returning, behavior you once accepted suddenly feels unacceptable. The universe isn't making life harder. It is making the truth impossible to ignore. Dr. Ramani often reminds us that narcissistic relationships create trauma bonds. Trauma bonds confuse emotional intensity with genuine love. After an argument, the narcissist may suddenly become affectionate. They apologize, they promise to change, they shower you with attention. For a brief moment, everything feels wonderful again. Then the cycle repeats. This emotional roller coaster becomes addictive because your brain begins craving relief after prolonged stress. But eventually, something remarkable happens. The relief no longer feels worth the pain. The temporary kindness no longer erases weeks of emotional suffering. The cycle becomes predictable. Instead of feeling hopeful after another apology, you quietly think, "I've heard this before." That single thought represents enormous personal growth because you're no longer reacting emotionally. You're observing objectively. But pertas become more important than promises. Dikas become louder than words. Consistency becomes more valuable than temporary affection. This growing awareness changes the questions you ask yourself. Instead of asking, "How can I make them love me?" you begin asking, "Why am I accepting treatment that destroys my peace?" That question transforms everything because the focus shifts away from fixing the narcissist and toward protecting yourself. The universe often reinforces this lesson through unexpected circumstances. Perhaps opportunities begin appearing outside the relationship. A new friendship enters your life. A supportive coworker reminds you what kindness feels like. You reconnect with family members you had drifted away from. You read a book that perfectly describes your experience. You hear someone explain narcissistic abuse, and suddenly your entire relationship makes sense. These moments may seem like coincidences, but they serve an important purpose. They remind you that healthier ways of living actually exist. You begin comparing constant chaos with genuine peace. For the first time in years, you realize that relationships aren't supposed to feel like emotional survival. They're supposed to feel emotionally safe, safety, respect, consistency, honesty, mutual care. These become your new standards. The narcissist often notices this change before you say a single word. As your confidence quietly grows, their control begins weakening. They may intensify their manipulation, they criticize you more harshly, they become more controlling. Or they suddenly become unusually charming. Dr. Ramani explains that when narcissists sense they're losing influence, they often increase behaviors designed to pull you back into the cycle. But something inside you has already changed. The discomfort has become stronger than the illusion. Your peace has become more valuable than their approval. Your emotional exhaustion has become impossible to deny. You no longer dream about changing them. You dream about finding yourself again. That dream is the universe preparing you for freedom because before it removes a narcissist from your life, it first removes your willingness to keep suffering in silence. It teaches you that discomfort is not always your enemy. Sometimes discomfort is protection. Sometimes anxiety is your inner wisdom recognizing danger. Sometimes emotional exhaustion is the final warning that your soul can no longer survive where your heart has been settling. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this. The universe is not trying to punish you by making the relationship difficult. The relationship was already difficult. The universe is simply allowing you to feel the full weight of what you've been carrying so that you finally find the courage to put it down. Because healing begins the moment you stop asking how much more pain you can tolerate and start asking how much peace you are finally willing to receive.